us to make bold moves. Now is
the Black Panther Party. Actually, the Black Panther.
We worked with many to your work.
Back into the hearts and the minds of our community. I got into this thing.
Hey, how you doing? Miguel Lloyd, host of Chamber Live, Vice President of Marketing and Communications for Atlanta Black Chambers and owner of Lloyd Media Group. And so welcome to Chamber Live today. We are not going to be live today as Keela is off today. I actually have to run out and run to another meeting for the Chamber here shortly. But we conducted a great interview, myself on my other show, Life Full Circle Radio. And we were talking about the SAG AFTRA situation. I have a friend of mine, Booker T. Mattison, who's a director. He's got a movie coming out, Twisted Message Therapy. His therapist is actually out today on Tubi. And so, but he's also a professor at UGA. And so I wanted to give everybody an opportunity to understand a little bit about how this business works, how this stuff is important to us, and how to win in this space. And so it was a great conversation, great dialogue. This is a show, as I mentioned, called Life Full Circle Radio. It is a show that I've been doing for a long time, probably close to 15 years, with my co-host, Kia Shakur. And so enjoy it. Follow us on that platform too, hashtag LFC Radio. You can find us on YouTube, a little bit of every place. But I think it's going to be pretty insightful. Booker's going to give us a lot of insight on the business. He's been a writer, screenwriter, novel writer, director for many years, and I think it's going to be beneficial to people who work in the arts and entertainment space. Enjoy. My man, Booker T. Mattison, how you doing?
Behold, my brother, how are you? Always happy to be on your show. Thank you for having me on.
Yeah, I didn't remind Kia that this is a fellow Spartan right here. You know, she always in Rattlers, man. They sit up there. That's right.
He's always tricky. Right. No, he always no. He remembered. He just didn't want to tell me because he knew I'd be annoyed, and I'd literally take these headphones off and go the rest of my bottle of wine.
Of course, that is what them Rattlers like to say, because them Rattlers like to always be about them. But so anyway, man, I appreciate you coming on. But in addition to being a fellow Spartan, are you still a professor at UGA?
I am. Go Dogs.
Yeah. Go Dogs. Got it. And you're teaching film over there. Talk to us a little bit about what you're doing over there at UGA right now, because of course you're touching the youth that are coming up into this game.
Yeah, I teach directing and screenwriting at UGA in the Department of Entertainment and Media Studies, which is in the Grady College of Journalism and Mass Communication. Mm-hmm. I've been there. I guess this is my seventh
wow,
year.
You've been there 7 years?
Nice.
This is my seventh.
When you first came this way. Okay.
Yeah, and that's what prompted the move here, was the professorship at UGA as well as the film and television industry here. So it was a great transition, and one that I've sufficiently enjoyed, and I love living in Metro Atlanta.
So I wanted to talk to you about a couple of things. Of course, we're going to talk about this movie before we get up out of here, but there's a lot going on in the entertainment space right now, and I'm curious about you as a professor, you teaching the next generation of entertainment professionals, but you've got the SAG AFTRA stuff going on. You've been a director, you're a writer. First of all, what is your take on what is going on in LA right now with the writer's strike?
You know, it's a challenge because there's so many people who are not working, and even beyond the not working, the fact that people would choose to not work is the surest indication that the proposals that are being made aren't sufficient. Hence a strike, not just in film and television, but in the industry. When you strike, you're going to be giving up some things, but we're at a time in the industry where there's so many changes that are happening. In particular with streaming and with the residuals that writers and the directors, they did strike a deal, but the writers and the actors, the math is different than it used to be, since the advent of streaming. So what most people don't realize, and I didn't realize this until I went to film school. After graduating Norfolk State, I went to NYU for film school, and it wasn't until I got to New York that I realized that there were actors who you see them in shows and TV shows and in movies, but they're on that film or that TV show, and then they're on unemployment.
That's right.
Right. I didn't realize that. I thought that all actors were rich, especially,
Yeah.
oh, I know him or her. And it's like, well, wait
Yeah.
a minute. You have been on set for 2 days for that movie, and you love that movie, and the movie gets all these runs, but they had 2 set days, which, if you're making, minimum the scale, 2 set days is not going to pay your mortgage, especially if you live in LA or New York. So I think that the public is now finally starting to understand that this is not like, whenever it's the NFL striking, like, oh, millionaires are striking against billionaires. It's not that at all. The overwhelming majority of actors in particular don't even make enough to qualify for their health insurance.
For the health insurance. That's
Yeah.
absolutely
I think
insane.
and I hate to say that this is the best part of the strike. There's no best part, but having the layperson finally understand that part, and I feel bad for actors having to explain, like, yo, yeah, we make this money on this film, but they don't pay us for the rental house that we have to rent. They don't pay us for the back and forth with cars or rentals or breaking this lease or whatever, and us having to keep hustling. I think that's good information to know, because that helps the layperson, the public, be on their side more. To be like, no, you guys really shouldn't be doing this to them. It doesn't make any sense, especially, and then again with streaming. Actors should still be getting paid for streaming. Just because you dump it on Peacock, people are still watching it over and over and over and over again. So I appreciate that part.
No, that's real. And Book, I want to give you the opportunity to respond to that, because a couple of things that you said, people just assume, like you said, that, if someone goes on set for 1 or 2 days, you guys are per day or per week, just like some people who are doing any other job. It looks like it's this old glamorous type of deal, but it's a deal. And I had this conversation with Laz Alonso maybe 10 years ago, and he really opened my eyes up to just that. But talk to us a little bit more, if you can elaborate a little bit more about how that business works. Whereas actors are just paid for the day, and a lot of them, most of them are not getting residuals. They're not getting those. They'll see themselves on TV for the next 40 years and say, I was in that movie, but I'm not getting a dime from it now.
Right. And here's, and I'll get to that, but this makes me think of a headline that came out not long ago, that the creator of Squid Game, Netflix made over $900 million from that show.
Yes.
That was one of those shows that breaks through and everyone is talking about it.
Yeah.
And the creator gets no royalties, and he does not get, and Netflix bought that IP outright, intellectual property outright. So he's not seeing any of that, so it's yes, it's the actors, but it's also the writers too, because if a streamer or a studio, if they buy your IP outright, it's not like you're like, hey, I still own this. And like me as an author, for example, this is something that I go over in class with my students. I've written 2 novels. So I own the copyright to the novel. But if, say, Warner Brothers or Netflix or Hulu, if they buy the film and television rights, yes, they'll give me a check. But the film and the television show, they own that. Yes, I still control the copyright. But, when the movie goes off or the television show goes off and makes all this money, I got my check. So it's the economics are very different than if you're working, 9 to 5, and then you have retirement, and your employer is matching that. It's just a different economic system.
Who negotiates in that scenario? Who, if you have a book and you go to and Netflix wants to buy it, who negotiates to make sure that you get a fair deal?
Well, that depends. It depends on if you have an agent, and not everyone has an agent, because agents represent people who they feel can make them money. If you don't have an agent, it could be your entertainment attorney. If you have an entertainment attorney, because they're going to take a percentage of whatever they negotiate.
Mm-hmm.
And in some instances, you negotiate it yourself. And here's the other part: when you have a business where there are more people than there are jobs, and there are people who are always trying to get on,
Yeah.
there are always going to be people in place who can do the work. That's why, scab work, the unions have to have in place that if you engage in scab work, meaning, the Writers Guild or SAG, if you're going to cross those picket lines and actually work, you can never get into those unions. If you're non-union, you can never get into those unions. And the reason why that's so rigid, you may say, well, why is that such a big deal? Well, because one, that weakens the effectiveness of the strike, because the idea is that I'm not going to give you my services if you're not going to compensate me fairly.
Right.
So, but yet you have people who, without the fear of never joining the union, they would do that scab work. Why? Because they want to get on.
Well, that's what I was going to ask
they
you.
want the small check. They'll rather take the small check for their gift than to have no check at all.
Go ahead, Kid.
Yeah, I wanted to ask you a quick question. So a lot of people are confused right now with the SAG-AFTRA strike because some films are allowed to be promoted and people can go do them and others cannot. So can you explain the difference between like the big network we're angry with and the smaller kind of network that we're cool with? Like, how is that working so that some actors are working and doing other stuff?
Absolutely. So you have movies, television shows. Whenever the network, the studio, the streamer is a what's called a guild signatory, right? That means that these are union film or television productions. So if the company that you work for that is making that film or TV show is a guild signatory, then that is a union production. Okay, so the union production, no, there's nothing doing right now. But if you are an independent production, if the three of us raise $100,000, to make my script that I adapted from my novel Snitch and make that a movie, then we could get an exception. Why? Because we are an independent production. We're not Netflix. We're not Warner Brothers, right? We raised $100,000 to get this movie made, so they're going to allow us to use SAG actors because we are truly independent. Now, of course, once we make the movie, we still have to get it distributed. So at a certain point, we are going to have to deal with these guild signatories. But to get the actual movie made, they'll give a carve out for us because one, there's no guarantee that we're ever going to get the thing distributed, and two, we are not a guild signatory. We're an independent production.
That's amazing that because when you think about that, people ask like, how is it that a Tyler Perry, for example, is still making all this content? And then I've also heard or I've seen movies that have been promoted that are saying, and I may be messing up the term, SAG exception, or this has been approved by, and some of that. Kind of give us a little bit of an education on what is going on right now, because when it's all said and done, people are about to be pissed because their favorite TV shows have not been shooting. There's nobody writing for this stuff. We're normally used to getting new content come late September, early October, and that ain't about to happen this year.
Right. And that's when it becomes real, and that's with any issue, right? Whenever it touches you directly, now miraculously I'm in tune with it. I'll do the research to figure out, kind of carving out my position on where I stand on it.
Right.
So it hasn't really touched, the people outside of the business yet, but to your point, it absolutely will. And that's whenever people will say, hey, wait a minute, where's my content? And I saw a headline not long ago that the public is supporting, the writers and the actors, and I think that's, and even the producers union, they came out with they hired a PR firm, right, which lets something. It's like you have to hire a PR firm, right?
Of course,
because the narrative is such. You have people, these executives who are making $29 million a year, coming out saying they can't afford. Oh yeah, you can't afford. They can't afford to pay an actor a living wage, but yet you're making $29 million.
It's ridiculous. I hate greed. I just despise greed. We see this situation where there's so much money being made that if you're making $29 million, you can cut out $2 or $3 million and make sure the people that helped you get that product together, or whatever the number may be, there's going to be a fair compensation. There's a question in the chat, and it's part of what I wanted to talk about. Matter of fact, let me just put it up on the screen. Kevin says, for Booker, can you explain the potential impacts from artificial intelligence on the industry, not sure I really understand. When I heard that an actor can go on a set for a day, their face can be captured, voice can be captured, and in perpetuity, those studios can use their name, their faces and their voices forever, and they not give them a dime. I said, in what world is that okay?
Right.
It's creepy.
That's not something that could happen down the line, technologically speaking. It's something that could actually happen now. So you figured, okay, let's just bring it down to earth. So, any of the three of us can be a background actor in any of these movies or TV shows when they're shooting, of course. So that's legitimate work, right? That's legitimate work. You're making $85, $100 a day, So that's something that you can do because, so every shoot, like, whenever I do a film, if you have extras, that's a part of the budget, and you have to pay those. People are like, yo, put me in a movie, dog. That's not free work. So that's a part of the budget, and a significant part of the budget, because, the numbers you have are limited. Okay, we have 50 actors when we have 50 extras for the entire show. So now you have to figure out how you're going to divvy them up so you can't have these big parties, etc. So that's legit work that would largely go away and that was part of the initial proposal that was rejected, thankfully, where it's like, okay, once I got you once, and again, you have people who are so desperate to get on, to be in the movie, willing to say, okay, give me my $100, and you can use my face. At least somebody's going to be seeing me. Maybe that'll lead to other work, right? But imagine that you've essentially sold your likeness, in perpetuity, which means now that's going to be either a smaller part of the budget or no part of the budget at all, which saves money. Right, because that's one less thing that you have to pay for. Because now I can use this person's likeness in perpetuity, change the outfit they have on, change how they move, etc.
Yeah, it's absolutely insane. Go ahead, Kia.
And the only person I've heard of them doing in perpetuity with their voice and likeness lately is James Earl Jones. He sold his didn't he? I don't know if he sold it, but it sounded like he sold his voice and likeness for Darth Vader because he was like, I'm too old to be doing this. I'm not messing with y'all. Like, I feel like he's the first person I've heard.
And that probably makes sense because he's 90 plus years old. Nobody wants to hear anybody else doing Darth Vader besides the voice of James Earl Jones.
Or Mufasa.
I would say give them the option.
Yeah, that's different, because that's just like whenever a musician sells their catalog.
Correct.
You're selling the catalog. You're not saying that they can now take your voice and make whatever songs they want to make with that catalog. But he got a check. I'd love to know what that check was. I'm sure it was nice. Yeah. Right? Which is different than telling your voice, and now they can use that voice or your image to make movies in perpetuity or to make songs in perpetuity.
Right. And there's a perfect example, Jason Weaver, who was the voice of Simba in the old Lion King, the original Lion King movie when he was a child. He's still a working actor. He's in The Chi right now, and he's been in several movies, ATL and some others. So I'm not messing with you, kid.
I be forgetting on the screen. I'm so sorry. Yes, he's working.
But the story is that when he was a child, they wanted to cut him a check, and his mom said, no, we want royalties. And so the check on the front end was smaller, but he's been getting paid on that movie for 30 years, right? And he thanks his mother for that. I would not have an issue.
It's the same thing Juanita Jordan did for Michael Jordan. For every, I think he gets 25 cents or 75 cents for every shoe sold from the time he signed the deal to now, which is a massive amount of money.
Right? My thing is, give these actors and writers, my thing is, anybody that touches that project, and I'm on the outside looking in, because I also know that there's people that I have a friend of mine who I should remain nameless for this conversation, but she's an actress turned director. And so she says, well, Miguel, I'm kind of on both sides of the conversation, right? We kind of don't want to give up too many pieces of it, but I'm also a writer who's on the other side. But stop being greedy. When it's all said and done, if you're making $29 million and you set aside $5 million to take care of the 1,000 people that made that movie, or in perpetuity, you give, the main actor 3%, 5%, whatever the number may be, and I'm not in those conversations, those numbers may already exist. Why not? Because when it's all said and done, when a movie comes out, the reason why we see Kevin Hart all over the place when his projects hit the streets is that the main salesperson for a movie is the primary actor.
Look, Kev is good. I can say that. Kev is good because once you're at that level, you have the most high-powered agent, you have the most high-powered entertainment attorney, you have the most high-powered manager. So they're negotiating the best terms, and you have the leverage to get the best terms. You know, so Kevin is good, and I'm not saying that Kevin doesn't have a stake in this. He obviously does. You know, but the overwhelming majority, most of the actors aren't making Kevin Hart money,
Of course
or
not.
Leonardo.
No.
Right.
You know,
It
they're the
makes
ones
Kevin Hart
on a project and they're on unemployment once that project wraps.
What is the best solution that you would like to see, that you think would be the best solution for what is going on right now, so this entertainment can get back spinning?
You know, a fair deal, and a fair deal meaning, you know, it's difficult to put the streaming genie back in that bottle because everyone has gone hard in that direction.
Right.
You know, with streaming, you know, the numbers are kept secret, so you don't know really how many spins you're getting. You know, it's even like Spotify. You know, when you look at the amount of money that these recording artists are getting for Spotify, and look, even before that, whenever I was an author, that was right whenever Amazon, because I haven't published a novel in many years, but that's right whenever Amazon was starting to take over. And it used to be authors would get backlist, meaning, you know, your old books, people would buy them and you still get royalties. But once Amazon came out, me could go and buy a used book. The author gets none of that, right? So that was a revenue stream, backlist, gone. You know, so yes, we all love technology, and I'm not anti-technology. I use technology in everything I do.
Absolutely.
You know, so but the streaming, because the 800-pound gorilla in the room is the Netflix, you know, is Apple, and these are companies that content is a one small part of what they do. It's not even the main thing that they make money on. So they one, have the money, and two, you know, they can play hardball. You know, that's different than Warner. Warner Brothers is in the business of making, you know, films. They're in the business of making television shows. And Barry Diller made a comment last week that, you know, the traditional studios need to cut a deal with the actors and the writers and leave, you know, the streamers to themselves. I don't know how realistic that is, but that is a potential solution.
That's interesting. That's interesting. That you mentioned that, and I want to get to your movie here next. But it's funny that you say that, because Time Warner, and now it's Max. They're not as successful as the Netflixes of the world, and to your point, is because they're also in the content business. So it's kind of like they got two sides of their business. Netflix is it's almost like, you know, back in the day when, you know, Facebook was not in the business of making any original content. They did that for a little while, and now they're cutting all their stuff out too, because really they're in the business of taking other people's stuff and making a ton of money off other people's stuff. We don't want to invest in it. Why should we, right? You know, why not take the other content and keep it moving? So that's interesting that's part of the conversation. Let's talk about your film. We're gonna play the trailer here, and I want to talk about Tubi, because you're on Tubi, and here's the thing. Let's just keep it real. We brothers, right? You know, everybody been clowning Tubi, and you know, you got all these crazy promos where people shooting bullets around trees and all this. Here's the funny thing. When I found out that you were on Tubi, I said, let me download this app. And I downloaded my Apple TV. I said, oh, well, you know, color purple, and there's a lot of movies that are here that I actually was looking for that I couldn't find, that are there.
But it's the original content that trends on Twitter at least once a week, because one movie drops and everybody's like, did you go watch this? But before we watch the trailer, and I'll ask my question.
Yeah, go ahead. Mm-hmm.
So I watched the trailer. Sir, did you have a bad marriage therapy experience, and this is why we're watching this? Because this is very
Hey, Booker, set up the trailer for us. Set it up for us and let us know what the movie is and what we're doing here.
It's Twisted Marriage Therapist. It's the story of a celebrity marriage counselor who gets the husband of a couple she's counseling committed so she can steal his wife.
I had to read that headline a couple times. I said, so this is, All right, let me go ahead and cue this up, because I want you guys to check out this trailer. All right, here we go.
It's a lot.
Welcome to this Yo session. I'm Dr. Yolanda Carver, but you all can call me Dr. Yo.
It's time for your relationships to grow.
I want to give away my relationship services to one lucky couple. This is something new. Some would even say unorthodox. It's my job to help you get better. I can get you a prescription. Are you okay? You've noticed strange things, haven't you?
Thought I seen somebody outside. There ain't nobody out here.
Get comfortable. Feel the texture of her body. Like this.
I don't want to do counseling no more. Sorry.
You chose the difficult path. What she just did to you, she used to do to me.
That boy be what? Dr. Yo trying to set me up.
Do you love me? You're an emotional predator. So are y'all ready to start restoring these relationships?
Man,
Who
the
hurt you,
trailer-
Booker? Who hurt you? Who hurt you, Booker? Just tell us. It's okay. We're in a
Yeah,
safe space.
The trailer's amazing, brother. I love it.
Thank you. It's wild, and look, I've told people that it's quite the departure from The Sound of Christmas, which was a family-friendly Christmas movie.
Yeah.
It actually did very well, but and people will often ask me, well, what type of stories do I tell? And I say good ones. So I don't have a particular genre that I favor, and what makes me excited about Twisted Marriage Therapist is because it is so different than The Sound of Christmas. And it showcases my ability to both write and direct pretty much anything, which is, it's one thing to say that because everyone talks, but it's another thing to be able to show it, with these two very different movies.
No, I think the trailer is very exciting. I think the movie is going to be dynamite. And the thing about it, as I mentioned, I think films like this are going to raise the respectability of the Tubi platform. And I believe there's a lot of independent filmmakers that are getting opportunities on Tubi, which are important.
We have to raise the respectability of Tubi because the Stepmother 1, 2, and 3 ain't gonna do it. So we need more Bookers in the world. I mean, have you consumed any other Tubi content to know what I'm talking about?
I
any
have
other Tubi
not.
movies?
I have not. I have Booker.
I'm in
Go ahead,
Booker.
Go ahead, Booker.
Here's the thing with Tubi. What people don't realize is that Tubi has over 50,000 titles from all of the network, all of the studios, 64 million monthly active users. And here's this talking about, again, how deals are structured. So you have content, like I use that example of us raising 100 grand and making a movie. We could then license that movie to Tubi. So you have, movies and TV shows for the actors that you recognize that are on there. But then you also have these independent productions that are licensed. And then you also have the third thing is the Tubi original movie, which is what I did. So this is the content was created by Tubi. It wasn't us going out independently making it. So it's not unlike BET Plus. That was The Sound of Christmas was a BET Plus original movie.
Yep.
And that's what streamers use to do what? Generate viewers. Apple Plus does the same thing. Amazon does the same thing. So there's three distinct categories of what you'll find on there. So, yes, you do have a lot of things on there. Like, and I saw that it was hilarious. The bullet going around the tree. That was funny. Right. But you know what I'm liking it too? It's like, remember Blockbuster back in the day? In Blockbuster, you had, the big budget movies and the TV shows, had those independent things. So there's no Blockbuster now. So now the independent people are on Tubi or Amazon. Amazon, same thing. People, oh, my movie's on Amazon. And you're thinking, oh, is that an Amazon original movie with a whole bunch of money and big name actors? No. This person did it independently and licensed it to Amazon. So, the Tubis and the Amazons of the world are now serving the same role that Blockbuster served back in our day when we were younger.
Well, I'm proud of you, brother. It looks like it's getting it done, and you're out there teaching the kids. Go ahead, Kia.
I have one more question, since apparently he's doing that his wrap-up voice. I always know the wrap-up voice. So before we wrap it up,
Booker,
I had one fun question.
Booker, we've been together doing this show for like almost 15 years, so she knows me good as my wife. But go ahead.
Wrap-up voice. Yeah. So we always ask our guests a fun question. So since you're a director, I have to ask you a unique fun question. And since I'm not allowed to ask the sex scene question, I'm gonna ask the other question, and that is, who has the most iconic?
Yeah, you can ask the sex scene question. I'm good with
it's okay. Don't worry about it. You're not ready. Who has the most iconic?
I'm always
voice?
ready. You don't got to answer, but I'm always ready.
Go ahead.
Who has the most iconic acting voice? Is it Morgan Freeman or James Earl Jones? Who's more iconic?
Wow, I'm going to go with James Earl Jones, and here's why. Because I think that, Morgan has played God a lot. Yeah, you know what? You know what that is? You know what it is? Look, and this is not a cop-out. You know, you can have tie games in the NFL. They're very rare.
Yeah.
But you can have tie games in the NFL. I have to say it's a tie because I was about to say, you know, the Darth Vader, and then I'm like, but wait a minute, Morgan is the voice of God.
Yeah.
That's a tie. That's a toss up. I can't choose one. I can't choose one on that.
Yeah. I don't know. I just between Darth
I
Vader.
choose Morgan Freeman.
I choose James Earl Jones. Between Darth Vader and Coming to America, let them wait. I'm sorry. I
did a recording session with him too, which was amazing. But I know we were out of time, so we won't get into
all
that.
good.
But yeah.
But let me tell you, I get why Miguel chose James Earl Jones, because he was so good as Mufasa. When they remade the movie, they were like, we're not redoing his voice. He old, he laying down. That's okay. To put a mic in front of his mouth and we'll just do it that way.
Right. No,
this is CNN. Remember that back in the 80s?
Exactly.
Oh, yeah.
Yes, that was James Earl Jones. Yes, that was James Earl Jones. James Earl Jones is 90 years old.
Morgan Freeman.
And then it's so funny when you go back and watch some old films when James Earl Jones was still a younger man. He was considered a bit of a sex symbol. And what was the movie? Was it
gorgeous? What
was the movie was it Claudine? What was the movie? I don't think I think that's a TV show. Was it a movie? It was Claudine, right? You're the film guy. And he was the man that Claudine wanted to be involved with, and the social worker. He had to hide in the closet because you can't be seen with a man in the house when you got 5 kids. You getting welfare or social services, whatever. But I'm with you there. What was your other question, Kia? Before we got Booker, we still got Booker's attention.
I just look how fine this man was. Look at this.
Yeah.
Look at
And
this.
look, his dad, Robert O. Jones, also an actor. They looked like twins when they were
really. See, I don't know. There's been some documentaries I've caught up on, and CNN has done a great job. If you guys go back and do some streaming, CNN did a series about 4 or 5 weeks of, I forgot what they call it, some about Black's entertainment, but it showed the history of the Black sitcoms, history of Black comedy, and then that was in. I have to find it and I'll put it in the chat. But there's some great content out there right now. And there's another film that was on, I think it's called Am I Black Enough? And I'll find that too. This is part of our last segments. We always talk about what we're watching, so that's one of the things we're watching.
CNN is bringing out the Little Richard documentary with my homegirl Lisa Cortez.
That's airing tonight, actually. I think it's airing tonight.
That's airing tonight. And then something else me and Miguel are super, super hype about, and that is the Bob Marley documentary that, not even
live a feature film,
on that.
It's a live action.
It looks amazing.
The trailer looks amazing. It really does.
I saw the trailer too.
I appreciate you, Book, for coming on to the show, man. We're gonna check out the premiere. The premiere of the movie is on Thursday on Tubi. Make sure you download it. Tubi is free 99. And you can download on all your platforms. I got Apple TVs in the house. It's on. So we'll check it out on Thursday, brother. We appreciate you, man. Thanks a bunch for coming on, making time.
I hope to talk to y'all again soon.
Have a good night.
All right, take care.
All right, good night.
For us to make bold moves. Now is
the Black Panther Party. Actually, the Black Panther.
We worked with many to your work.
Back into the hearts and the minds of our community. I got into this thing